Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Holistically Thriving, a podcast where we talk about all the different areas of your life that you need to be working on in order to be thriving as a whole. So today we are talking in the category of natural ways of healing. And this will be discussed in many of my podcasts. My favorite form of healing is energy healing, whether that is Reiki or through frequency therapy. I'm a Reiki practitioner and I'm also a frequency therapist, and I've been using these modalities for over 2 years. And I wanted to share something in today's podcast because this just happened last night. And so one of the things that I have been working on over the last few years is to not care what anybody thinks of me and to be able to share things confidently that I fully believe in. Because a lot of what I do is, quote unquote, out there, not for the people who are listening to this podcast. If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably on the same page as I am. But, people who are Facebook friends or, whatever, Instagram people, sometimes they would look at my posts and comment and be like, this doesn't make any sense, and so that kind of shut me down because I'm a Libra and I don't like confrontation. And so I fully believe in the power of energy and frequencies and healing and, things like that. And so for people who are very, I don't know, what do you want to say? Like, very, like their minds are very like, I need to see it in order to believe it. People like that think things like Reiki is crazy. And so I don't talk a lot about the absolutely insane experiences that I have as a frequency therapist because I don't know how to explain it to people. So for example, I can have a session with someone, whether they are near me or not. I have sessions with people who are in different countries. I have sessions with people who are in different states. Most of my sessions are people who are not sitting right next to me. And most people cannot grasp the concept of how is it possible that I can tap into that person's energy and find out what's going on with them physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I'm saying like deep things. I can find out things about you from your childhood that are in your subconscious that you don't even realize are affecting you now. And, for some people, I think that makes more sense if you're like, oh, I'm using a psychic or, an intuitive person. But for some reason, it really baffles people when I say, actually, I'm using a frequency device. And this device is the thing that's giving me extremely accurate information about you, things that you had no idea were even bothering you, although they make complete sense to you, right? So, I've been running sessions on people for over a year. I've had hundreds of clients. And I have crazy experiences with people that I just don't share, even though I would love to share them. And I'm getting better at sharing now because now I have really come a long way into the land of like, I really don't care what people think of me because I need to share it because the people who need the healing will listen to my message and be like, yes, I need that. I want to talk to this person. I need frequency therapy in my life. Right. And if I don't say anything, if I don't share things, then the people who need the healing will not find me. And then I'm doing a disservice to that person who really needs the frequency therapy. Right. So I've been sharing more and more, but the point is that, so I'll share with you this little story that happened to me last night. So the people who are very close to me or my family members, they will message me and say, hey, can you do a quick scan on me and see what's going on with me? And to me and to them, that makes perfect sense. This is a normal conversation that we will have. But to the outside person, they're like, what do you mean? Can you do a quick scan on them when they're not next to you to see what's going on with them? One of the first stories I have was my brother messaged me in the early days of me having this device. And he was like, I can't tell, am I having allergies or do I have a cold? And I scanned him and it immediately came up with cold. And I was like, yep, it's not allergies. Go take some vitamin C. And so like, think about that for a second. Instead of him having to go to a doctor or whatever, he literally just texted me. And within a minute, I was able to tell him, yeah, go take vitamin C, vitamin D. It's not an allergy. You're getting sick, right? So this is a concept that most people are like, that doesn't make any sense. But here's the funny part. The device is FDA approved. So if you believe in the FDA, that's, for some people that don't understand frequency and energy, it's mind blowing to them that the FDA would approve such a thing. Well, guess what, guys? It's literally just science. That's what it is, right? Our bodies are made of more space than matter. We are electromagnetic beings. Most people think, they see our bodies, we touch our bodies, and we're like, oh, this is just a physical being. No, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably already know that there's so much more to you than just a physical being, right? And so, for example, this is what happened with my friend last night. So my friend messages me and she's like, hey, can you check in on me? Because I feel like I have a UTI or something. I just know that my yoni is not happy. And I was like, okay, cool. So she messages me at 11:36. By 11:38, I messaged her back and said, yep, I'm seeing things like bladder, kidneys, something that's called clean all, which basically just means she needs a clean out of her system. And then go to the roots, which made me think it's an emotional component as well, because that means that like the frequencies need to go to the root of the problem, because the root of the problem is not actually a UTI. That's just what's happening on the outside, but on the inside, there's an emotional component going on, right? So then I also scanned her for homeopathic remedies, and I found belladonna and what's the other one? There was another one that came up that are, things that are antiviral, antibacterial, anti-inflammatory. So I was like, yeah, you definitely have some sort of like a small infection going on. I'll send you these frequencies to help you heal. And she said, okay, great. Thanks. That just helps me confirm, because my doctor did tell me that she thinks I have a UTI, whether it's an infection in my kidneys or my bladder. And so, she went to a doctor, but I found out what was wrong with her within a minute. And instead of giving her antibiotics, I can send her healing frequencies to fix her issue. I'm not a doctor. I'm not saying I'm a doctor. This is my disclaimer. Go to a doctor if you feel like you need to go to a doctor. But I'm just sharing this experience that we had last night. So then I said to her, okay, so if you're having a bladder, right? Because now I know there's also an emotional thing going on, because it said, go to the roots. So I said, what's going on with you? Why are you angry? Because usually bladder means something about anger. And she told me what was going on. And she was like, yeah, this is happening in my life. And I was like, oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. We talked a little bit about that. So that's the difference, right? Like you go to a doctor, they immediately diagnose you as, yep, UTI, yeast infection, whatever, but they don't think a little more outside the box and say, well, what's the emotional factor? What's going on in your life? Doctors are like so fast, we have patients right back to back, and we don't really care about your emotional well-being. We just care about, this is what your physical sign is. So here, take some antibiotics, right? And healers like me are more like, hey, your bladder means you're angry. What's going on? Do you want to talk about it? Right? Granted, this is a friend, but I would do the same thing for a client. If someone came, if she was my client and she said to me, she's having a bladder issue, I would say, what's going on? What are you angry about? Talk to me. And so she, told me what was going on, and then we talked about it. And then this morning I sent her a bunch of healing frequencies, and she already messaged me saying she's feeling better. Thank you. Right? Okay. So for us, that's a normal conversation. For the outside person, they would read that text message thread and be like, you guys are nuts. What is this? And, this is something that I heard in an audiobook yesterday. This book is called The Resonance Effect, I think it's called, by Carolyn McMakin. She's kind of like the mother of frequencies. I think this book came out in the 90s. I'm reading it now, or I'm listening to it now as an audiobook. And literally, she just keeps dropping these golden nuggets of being able to explain to people how much it's literally just science. It is 100% science. So I'm going to read to you this little quote that I wrote down as I was listening, because I was like, wow, this is insane. Like this makes a lot of sense, right? So here you go. So it says, according to the physics and chemistry we all studied, humans are electromagnetic beings that only appear solid. Our bodies are made up of atoms and molecules. Molecules are made up of atoms that can be particles and waves at the same time. And there is more space between the particles than there are particles. On a quantum level, we are more space than we are matter. All matter is held together by electrochemical bonds, and every bond resonates at a specific frequency. That's physics. Every cell membrane receptor has bonds that will only resonate to specific signals. That's biophysics. The signal from your key fob will unlock your door just like a physical key can. The signal from a frequency can change cell receptor function better than medication. This is real, rational model for how medicine based on resonance could work in clinical practice. It's not magic. It's not a placebo effect. It's physics. It's the physics of resonance. So that makes sense, right? Like your body is an electromagnetic being. We are not just a physical body. And, the powers that be don't want you to figure that out. They don't want you to figure out that you can tap into your own energy and heal your own body. And I'm not saying it's an overnight thing, because believe me, I've been trying for a very long time. And it wasn't until I finally figured out some magic tricks that, I was able to really start healing. But, this next one says, thanks to modern technology, we now accept as a culture that a key fob can open your car door lock with an electromagnetic signal, but we don't yet have an equivalent understanding that an electromagnetic signal on a specific frequency can change cell receptors, cell function, and your health. That is, think about that for a second. Why do we all just accept the fact that we can go beep, beep, and your car, out of all the cars in the parking lot, is the one that's going to unlock, right? It's the same thing. So I am doing that exact same thing. I'm tapping into the energy of the other person, whether it's through the device or through my own self as a Reiki practitioner. And I'm feeling into what's going on. And then I'm able to send back healing frequencies directly to that person because it's my intention. If I'm using my frequency device, I'm putting in the person's name, the person's birthday, and their picture, and that's it. For Reiki, I'm focusing on that person. It's my intention, right? So I hope that makes a little bit more sense, because most people always say to me, I don't understand how you can possibly be getting this information when I'm nowhere near you. And it's deep information, like deep information. The amount of people that say, one person said to me once, this thing knows me better than my husband, because it's so deep. And one of my best friends, she was one of the first people I ever ran a session on. She said to me, she's a psychotherapist, and she said to me, you just got out of me more than I would have gotten from a client in 3 years of work with them. You got out of me in 1 hour, because, you can go to therapy and you can just BS around and be like, oh, these are my issues. And it's going to take the therapist a long time to learn you, figure it out, pull out of you the information. And then what? Then you're just supposed to go home and figure it out on your own. Whereas this is more like, bam, I'm going to tell you within an hour what your deepest, darkest fears, secrets, things that are bothering you are. And then I'm going to send you the healing frequencies so that you can work through them, so that you're not on your own and I can help you heal. So I just cannot even tell you the amount of crazy experiences I've had, but here, I'll even show you a picture. So this, if you listen to my intro video, I talked a lot about why I became a healer myself. And it was because I was having a serious skin issue that I could not figure out what was happening. And I tried everything for years to heal. And I'm going to show you, this was day one of buying my frequency device versus a couple of days ago. So 2 years later. So if you're listening to this instead of watching it, I'm showing a picture of 2 years ago when I first got my device. My neck is completely covered in inflammation, redness, scabs, scarring. And now today my neck looks totally normal and I'm back to normal. And, our trauma sits in our cells. It lives in our cells. So even though I was doing everything physically to try and heal myself, I was eating better, it didn't matter, because the trauma was living in my cells and I could not figure out how to heal myself. And so it wasn't until I was sending myself frequencies every single day. And here's the kicker about it, by the way. When I first got my device, skin was never something that ever came up. It was always emotional stuff, deep emotional stuff that would come up. And it's kind of funny, because for years I was trying to heal my skin, but guess what? Skin wasn't the problem, right? It was the emotional stuff going on that was causing so much unrest in my body. My inner peace was all thrown off. I was just in a bad place in my marriage. I was living with someone who had a lot of anger issues. And so my inner homeostasis was just off, and my body was reflecting that. And I was constantly inflamed. My skin was very angry. It was red, it was flared, because when you're with someone that you can't really get your point across to them, and you're constantly being, gaslighting, right? I was being gaslit constantly. And so my skin was reflecting that. And, like I said in my intro video, it wasn't until my brother said to me after 2 years of me trying to heal myself, I'm talking like, guys, I'm not like someone who, some people say like, oh, I stick to a diet or whatever it was. I was so strict with myself. I was never cheating. If I decided that I was just going to eat potatoes and lettuce, I just ate potatoes and lettuce for weeks. Like, or like I was fully plant-based, but I ended up starting to drink bone broth and I was making it from scratch. There were so many different physical things that I was trying to do, buying hundreds of dollars of supplements. I calculated it once. I've definitely spent like close to 15 grand trying to heal myself, between healers, between supplements and things like that. But it didn't matter. Like, thank God I was using those supplements, because it would have been 10 times worse. But it didn't matter that I was using them, because I wasn't addressing the root problem until I finally left my marriage. And so, it was a very difficult healing journey, but frequencies were finally the thing to help me release the trauma that was in my cells from years of mental, emotional abuse. And so that's why frequency is so important, because you have all these people with childhood wounds, right? You have all these people on the planet. Nobody gets out of childhood without having some type of scarring, wounding from even the people that love you the most, right? And so you have all these people who are adults who are carrying around this trauma, and they reflect it in their relationships, in their jobs, in every aspect of their life. And they don't even know why they're doing the things that they're doing, right? But I can scan you and find out what's going on. So for example, I'll tell you a quick story about this lovely lady that I had a session with. She's in her 80s and she's taking care of her husband, who is in his 90s. And she is a constant full-time caregiver. And it's not really that he's having physical problems, it's that he's having more emotional problems. And so we had a session the other day because she just feels like she needs support. She needs help. She needs love, because she is the person that everybody comes to. And if you're an empath, you probably also deal with the same problem of people always come to you for help, but then you feel like you have no one to lean on, right? And so she had a session, and in her conscious mind, it came up something like, this person just feels like they have to give, even though she doesn't really want to. And she got kind of sad about that. She was like, but I do, like, I am a giving person. But then later on, it came up that in her subconscious mind, it said something like, this person loves to give. This person gives out of her own free will. So in her subconscious mind, deep down at the core of who she is a lovely giving person. But right now in her conscious mind, because she's being abused by someone who needs her 24/7, and there's no energy flow between the two of them where she's receiving care and love as well, and it's just her giving all of her care and love to her husband, there's a mismatch of energetic communication there, right? So it was really interesting that in her subconscious, it really is that she's a giving person. And most of us at our root are, right? But we end up in situations in our lives where we feel like we're the ones who are constantly giving, especially mothers, right? Which is why mothers and self-care is so important, because most of the time we're giving, and we're not feeling like we're receiving enough to keep our own body in balance. So she felt so much better after our session. And, that's the magic of how I can help people, because when you, even just to have that release of like, oh, thank you. Like, I feel better now, that it's not that I don't love my husband. It's not that I don't, love to give and help. It's literally just that there's an imbalance going on. And, there's just so many things that come up in people's sessions that they're not expecting, that they don't realize are affecting them. I will tell you, most of the time people come to me and tell me that they have a problem with X, Y, and Z. And then we find out that actually the problem is A, B, and C. And they are like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. I never thought of it like that. And that helps a lot. So a lot of times we have people who have issues with their partners, and we find that there's stuff from childhood that come up about their parents. And then it relates to why they're having an issue with their partner. So this is healing on a level that most people don't even realize exist. And it's difficult to try to explain this to people, because most people, like, they can't grasp the concept of how is this possible, which is why I just say to people, if you hear this message and you're thinking, I need to try that, then trust it and do it. Because when you're ready for it, it will call you and you will want it, right? Like I had a session with my healing person the other day. She's a Reiki master. She's like the most special person I've ever met. She's going to be on the podcast sometime soon. And, she tapped into me and we had this whole session and she was like, oh my God, like you were ready for that. She ended up doing a lot of shamanic work with me, things that she had never done with me before. And she was like, I know how much you're working on yourself because your body and your soul was ready for that healing. And she gifted me a mantra, which is like a big deal for people. She's never gifted me a mantra before. That was really special. It was a very special moment. And I felt so much better after that session. Like my skin has been crystal clear. It was a really magical session. And she was even like, wow, this is how I know that you're doing the inner work, because it wouldn't have happened. So it's the same thing of like, if you're hearing this message and your body is telling you to set up an appointment with me, just trust it and do it. Even if you're still confused about how it works and why it works, just trust your intuition if it's telling you to set up an appointment, and do it, because I can tell you that it will shift a lot for you. And the frequencies do a lot, but also even just your own self-awareness will help a lot. Because if you now are aware that there's a problem with this, or this, or there's a problem in your relationship with your mom or your dad, or there's a problem with, whatever it is, you're being manipulated at work, or, things that you may not be so consciously aware of. Once you're consciously aware of it, it can shift. Not only will the frequencies be shifting for you, but you yourself having that self-awareness will help you on a whole different level of, maybe realizing you need to leave a relationship, or you need to leave a job, or you need to, do whatever it is. I've now had 3 other women, after having sessions with me, have decided to leave their husbands as well. It's almost like seeing it that was what happened for me. I saw things on the device after I purchased it that I couldn't escape from. It was looking at me straight in the face, and it was like, you need to leave this relationship. It is not going to pussyfoot around anything. It's going to tell you what you need to hear in order to adjust your life. So that was monumental for me. And now I've done the same thing for 3 other women now that had the same experience. They saw it and they were like, I can't do this anymore. It's telling me, and I'm not saying that if you're having trouble in your relationship that you should leave. I'm just saying that once you see things and you're already kind of thinking like, should I or shouldn't I, then you'll probably get some information from our session that will make you start to feel more confident as well, wanting to leave. Because, for example, my roommate, after living with me for a couple of months and seeing the crazy things that I was shifting for my clients, and for him, like I was running sessions on him, he was seeing what I was doing for myself and for my daughter. He eventually decided to buy his own. And within, I was running frequencies for him for, I don't know, maybe like 5 months. And then he's had his own now for the last 3 months. And I was like, good, because now I can stop sending you, like, you're one person off my list that I don't have to like think about because I know now you have your own, so you can just heal yourself. But like a lot of my family members have it now, and I'm like, good, because now I don't have to worry about you. You can heal yourselves now. But his entire life has changed over the last 8 months. He's worked through serious big issues, like his adoption. He's worked through a 5-year breakup. He worked through the emotions of that, even though they had broken up, over a year ago. He left his job and now he has an epic job. He filmed a whole testimonial with me. It's like a 20-minute video of him explaining how it's completely shifted his entire life. And actually I might just throw that up on here, even though we didn't film it podcast style, but I'll just, I'll put that up on here. It'll be called Paul's testimonial or something like that. But yeah, it is going to shift things for you 100%. Like even just from one session. Here, listen to this. Ready? Check this out. So I had a friend who had a session with me, and she said, this was the other day. Let's see. She said, 1 second. I wasn't prepared to read this to you, but I just thought of it. So now I'm just going to find it and read to you. She said, I asked her if, while our session is still fresh in your mind, can you write a testimonial for me? I'd be so grateful. And she said, that's so funny because I was just going on and on to a coworker about how incredible I still feel. I was talking to some of the pharmacists earlier too. I forgot what else she said, but there was like a bunch of things that she had said about how she can't believe, I can already tell that this is life-changing for me. I'm at work right now and I'm not even fazed by any of the nonsense surrounding me. I don't have anxiety while I'm here. Our session was like 5 days prior to that. So the frequencies were shifting for her, even though our session was over, they were still shifting and changing her. And that's the magic of frequencies. Here, I'll tell you a really funny story to end this podcast. You'll think this is hilarious. So for me, I have been using it for 2 years. And most of the time I'm running it on things that you can't physically see, like my liver or, my kidneys or whatever, my skin, my emotional stuff. And even though I feel like a different person 2 years later, I don't get that instant gratification of, seeing something magically change. I can't see my liver detoxing, right? So, my daughter, Sophie, absolutely loves lentils. And she decided she wanted to have some lentils. And I was like, okay, sure. I'll make a big pot of it for meal prep. And so we were eating lentils for days on end. And I started to feel really bloated. And I was like, whoa, this is weird. I don't usually get bloated. And then my device kept telling me small intestine. And I was like, weird. But I wasn't running the program because I thought I knew better, right? Sometimes, your ego gets in the way and you're like, it's fine. I don't need the small intestine program. I'm totally fine. And then I finally connected the dots when it came up for a third day in a row. And I was like, oh, small intestine, it's probably from the lentils. That's why I'm bloated. Let me run the program. Okay. Now let me tell you, I never have small intestine issues. I don't have gastrointestinal issues. I'm not constipated ever. So for me, I don't ever run that program. So I decided to run the program at nighttime while my roommate and I were sitting on the couch with Sophie and we were watching a movie, and I put the device right on my small intestine, and within seconds I could feel bubbles moving. And I was like, whoa, what's happening? Like bubbles were moving in my small intestine. And I thought, that's probably not a good sign. And I am not a gassy person at all. Like I am I eat a plant-based diet. I am not gassy. Usually beans don't affect me, and so I was like, oh my God. And within 5 minutes, I was like, I got to go in my room. And I was so gassy for the entire rest of the night. When I woke up in the morning, still gas coming out. Up until 48 hours later, guys. It was only a 50-minute program. And for 48 hours, it was still continuing to move stuff out of my small intestine. That was insane. I was like, what is happening right now? Like it was crazy. So crazy. And that it just because you run the program for 50 minutes doesn't mean it's only working for 50 minutes. So if I'm sending you emotional frequencies, it's going to continue working for you. So it's going to give you the confidence to leave the job or leave the relationship or work on the inner child stuff that you need to work on, or, fix this or fix that in your life, or have more joy or whatever it is, less stress. That was the craziest thing. There was also something super crazy with a lady that I had a session with. She was doing a session on me, and she said my stomach meridian was all messed up. And so she was sending me frequencies from the UK. I was not near her, guys, from the UK. She was sending me frequencies for my stomach meridian. And she was like, I'll just send these ones for you for 1 minute. I was like, cool. She pressed the button and my stomach was going like this. And I was like, oh my God, can you hear that? And she was like, no, I can't hear it. And I was like, my stomach is freaking out. Literally the second she pressed the button for that whole minute. it was making the most insane noises. My stomach doesn't make those kind of noises. It didn't even sound like hunger pangs. It was like monster noises. It was nuts, guys. So anyway, that was pretty funny. But yeah, it is literally like pressing the button on your key fob and going beep beep. This is the car that I want to unlock and I want to fix and send this person the healing frequencies. So anyway, I could talk about this all day, but I'm going to end that one here now. But there will be many podcasts on this. If you're ready for a session, guys, go to the-frequency-solution.com. That's my website. You can book a session there, or you can just message me and ask me anything you want before our session. But yeah, it is life-changing. And I truly hope that when you feel like you are ready for a session, that you listen to your intuition and you book it, because just trust, guys, just trust. It will change you. I promise. So the-frequency-solution.com. I hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. If you are blown away, please share it with a friend. Like it, comment, subscribe, whatever platform you're listening to this on, please do all of those things. And I'll catch you guys on the next episode. Have a lovely rest of your day. Sending you peace and love. See ya.